Good morning, friends. Myself, Dr. D.M. Patel, currently working as Associate Professor at Gujarat Technological University Graduate School of Pharmacy, Ahmedabad. I'm going to give you the insights of gastroretentive drug delivery systems by a video along with a PowerPoint presentation. The presentation will include the introduction to the gastroretentive drug delivery system, advantages of gastroretentive drug delivery system, various technologies that are used for gastroretentive drug delivery system, and key references for the further reading. Now coming to the introduction, what are the limitations of conventional controlled drug delivery systems? Usually a conventional controlled oral drug delivery system faces a problem of limited gastric residence time and a rapid gastrointestinal transit can prevent complete drug release in absorption zone and hence reduce the efficacy of the administered dose since the majority of the drugs are absorbed in either stomach or the upper or a proximal part of small intestine. To overcome these limitations of a conventional controlled release systems, an approach of a gastroretentive drug delivery system have been proposed. Gastroretentive drug delivery system increase the gastric residence of the drug delivery system in the upper part of the gastrointestinal tract. Now, what is gastroretentive drug delivery system actually? Gastroretentive delivery is one of the site-specific delivery of the drugs at stomach. It is obtained by retaining a dosage form into stomach and drug is being released at sustained manner to specific site either in stomach or the intestine. Now how the conventional sustained release drug delivery and a gastroretentive drug delivery differs. It can be visualized from this graph that in a sustained release drug delivery, the drug dosage form is removed from the stomach after a gastric retention time, while in case of gastroretentive drug delivery system, the delivery system is retained into the stomach for a longer period of time, and that's why it provides a sustained release of a drug into the stomach or a proximal part of the small intestine. And that's why a gastroretentive drug delivery systems will provide a continuous drug that can be absorbed through the absorption window that is situated either in stomach or in the proximal part of the small intestine. While in conventional controlled release systems, once the drug delivery is leaving the stomach, and that's why the chances of the absorption of the drugs that are absorbed through absorption window where a specific carrier for the absorption are there is not possible, while gastroretentive drug delivery will maximize the drug absorption through the absorption window. Now looking to the merits of gastroretentive drug delivery systems, delivery of drug with a narrow absorption window in the small intestine region is possible with this delivery. Now, dear students, you may have questioned that what is absorption window? Usually, for drugs that are absorbed by a carrier-mediated transport process, there are specific carrier molecules, either they are proteins, and they play a part in the absorption of many drugs, and therefore, an area of a stomach or a small intestine that is more dense in such carrier is called as absorption window. Longer residence time in stomach could be advantageous for local action in the upper part of the small intestine, for better absorption. For example, a treatment of peptic ulcer disease where a specific action into the stomach is required. Improved bioavailability is expected for drugs that are absorbed readily upon release in the gastrointestinal tract. Drugs that are benefited by gastroretentive drug delivery systems are the drugs that are acting locally in the stomach. For example, antacids and drugs used for Helicobacter pylori infection like misoprostol. Drugs that are primarily absorbed in the stomach like amoxicillin. Drugs that are poorly soluble at alkaline pH of the intestine. Example furosemide, diazepam and verapamil. Drugs with a narrow absorption window. For example cyclosporin, levodopa and methotrexate. Drugs which are absorbed rapidly from the gastrointestinal tract like metronidazole and tetracycline. Drugs that degrade in the colonic pH. Example is eptopril, and drugs that disturb the normal colonic microbes that are essential for our many biometabolic processes like antibiotics against H. pylori eradication. Now, to design a gastroenteritis drug delivery, physiology of stomach is very important to understand. Under the fasting conditions, the stomach is collapsed back with a residual volume of approximately 50 ml. The pH of the stomach is ranging 1 to 3 in the fasted state, and a normal gastric residence time is 30 minutes to 3 hours depending on the food we are taking. Usually liquid food will take 30 minutes to transfer from stomach to intestine, while a solid hard food may take up to 3 hours to transit from stomach to small intestine. Now there is a one opening, that is unidirectional opening between stomach and a small intestine, that is called as pyloric sphincter, and usually the diameter of the sphincter is 30 mm in the size, and that's why if the food particles, unless they are reduced below 30 mm in size, they will not transfer from stomach to intestine. Now, there are four basic approaches for the gastroretentive drug delivery system. The first one is high density system. The second one is floating systems. The third one is swelling and expanding systems. And the fourth one is mucoadhesive and bioadhesive systems. Each systems will have their own advantages and limitations that we'll discuss subsequently in the lecture. Now, broadly, the approaches used for gastric retention are classified as four main types, but a floating system that are also called as low density systems are further classified into a hydrodynamically balanced system, popularly abbreviated as SBS. The second is gas generating systems. Next is matrix tablets. Other approach is oily liquid or vacuum containing systems. Because of the vacuum, they will have a low density. Raft forming systems, hollow microsphere or hollow balloons, and the beads made up of either alginate or pectinate are also used for a floating system. While expanding systems are further classified into a swelling systems where the drug delivery will swell to a size that is larger than 13 mm so that it cannot pass through pylorus sphincter, and that's why it is retained into the stomach. The second one is unfoldable system, where unfoldable systems are systems that are compressed during the formulation, but when they are exposed to the stomach, they will expand in their size and hence they are returned into the stomach. Now we'll see high density approach in detail. What are the uh, main points? Usually gastric contents have a density that is closer to a density of water, nearly 1 gram per cc, and density should be more than stomach content if you want to develop a high density system. Usually 3 gram per cubic centimeter is the required density. A threshold density between 2.4 to 2.8 gram per cc is needed for a better development. These systems are capable to withstand with the peristaltic movement of the stomach, and they are prepared by coating or mixing a drug with heavy inert materials. Heavy inert materials includes barium sulfate, zinc oxide, iron powder, and titanium dioxide. Okay, to increase the density of a drug delivery system. A floating approach or a low density approach involves a bulk density that is lower than a gastric content. The widely used approach because of ease of formulation or fabrication of drug delivery, and this delivery system remain beyond in the stomach for prolonged period of time with the potential of a continuous release of the drug into the stomach. Floating approach includes a hydrodynamically balanced system, gas generating systems, matrix tablets, oil, liquid or vacuum containing system, raft forming systems, hollow microspheres or hollow balloons, or alginate or pectinate beads. Now, what are hydrodynamically balanced systems? They are prepared by incorporating a high level, usually 20 to 75% weight by weight of a gel forming hydrocolloids into a drug delivery system. The examples of such hydrocolloids are hydroxyethyl cellulose, hydroxypropyl cellulose, hydroxypropyl methyl cellulose, and sodium carboxymethyl cellulose. These are included into formulation and then compressed these granules into a tablets or a capsule. Usually, the bulk density of such delivery system is maintained to a less than 1. When they are exposed to a gastrointestinal fluid, the outer cover of the gelatin is removed and there is a formation of a gelling structure because of the gelling nature of the polymers used in the drug delivery system, and expansion of such delivery will reduce the density below 1, and slowly the drug is diffused out of this gel structure into a controlled manner. This slide shows you the hydrodynamically balanced capsule. Upon administration, when it is exposed to gastric fluids, usually the gelatin layer is removed and a gel structure is formed from which drug is slowly released in a continuous manner. The gas generating systems involves the carbonates or bicarbonates which react with gastric acid or any other acid, either citric or tartaric acid that is present in the formulation to produce the carbon dioxide, and are usually incorporated in the dosage form, thus reducing the density of the system and making it float on the media. The mechanism involves the interaction of a CO2 source, either it may be carbonate or bicarbonate, that will react with the acid of the gastrointestinal tract, or additionally citric or tartaric acid may be incorporated into formulation to avoid the by chance failure of the delivery system in case of elevated pH of the gastric fluid. In that case, the acid may not be sufficient to produce the required carbon dioxide. Now, the carbon dioxide that is generated will be entrapped into the matrix, and that's why the density of the system will be reduced. Another approach involving a matrix tablet is usually a single layer matrix tablet is prepared by incorporating a bicarbonate in a matrix forming hydrocolloid gelling agent like hydroxypropyl methyl cellulose, chitosan, arsenate or other polymers and a drug. A bilayer tablet can also be prepared by gas generating matrix in one layer and a second layer with drug for its sustained release effect. The triple layer tablet also prepared having a first swallowable floating layer with bicarbonates, second sustained release layer of the drug and third rapid dissolving layer of a bismuth salt. And that's why depending on a need of drug delivery system, a formulator have an option of a single layer matrix tablet, a bilayer matrix tablet or a tri-layer matrix tablet. The oily liquid or vacuum containing systems usually prepared by adding a drug to a mineral oil, and this drug mineral oil solution is usually mixed with a warm agar gel solution, and this mixture is poured into a tablet mold and then it is cooled so that it gets solidified. Here air is entrapped in the agar gel. Escape of air is prevented by the oil because oil will not allow the air to come out, and that's why the density of the system will be less, and the tablet usually contains 2 to 3% of the agar. A very popular format of a gastroretentive drug delivery is a raft forming system where the mechanism involved in this system includes the formation of a viscous cohesive gel which is in contact with gastric fluids and forming a continuous layer, and this thick layer of a viscous cohesive gel is called as a raft. Raft systems incorporate alginate gels which have a carbonate component. Generally it is used for antacids and the heartburn, that is called as gastric uh, effective reflux disease. For example, liquid Gaviscon is the marketed product that is usually based on a principle of draft forming system. The hollow microspheres or hollow balloons includes the polymers like polycarbonates, cellulose acetate, calcium alginate, hydroxytase, agar, and methoxylated pectins. Usually they are prepared by creating oil in water emulsion, and this emulsion usually involves the oil component will not be actually the oil, but usually it will be the organic solvent, and this emulsion after formation it is allowed to continuously rotate to remove out the organic solvent that is incorporated in the emulsion by diffusion of organic solvent like dichloromethane or acetone, and the removal of such solvent will create a hollow microsphere or a hollow balloon, and that is called as, because they are also called as micro balloons because the size is usually in micrometer. See, this slide is which is showing you the formation chart for the microspheres or the balloons, where usually first the emulsion is formed, and this emulsion is allowed to diffuse out the organic solvents, and that's why the internal phase will be evaporated gradually and the surface layer will remain and micro balloons will be created, and same way the holospheres are also created by the same procedure, and usually The preparation techniques involved in the microspheres or the balloons are emulsion solvent diffusion method and the microballoon formation is proposed by a method that was described by Kawashima et al. Now, a calcium alginate or pectinate beads are formed by a method called as inotropic gelation method, where usually sodium alginate solution is prepared and then the sodium alginate solution is added to a solution of calcium chloride that is maintained on a magnetic stirrer for a continuous stirring procedure, and a sodium alginate solution is gradually added with the help of a syringe needle, and because of the interaction of a sodium alginate and a calcium present in calcium chloride solution will precipitate in form of spherical gel beads. The mechanism behind this formation is sodium alginate is soluble in water, and that's why we'll have a solution of sodium alginate. But when it comes in contact with calcium ions, usually calcium alginate is insoluble in water, and that's why the spherical gel beads will be formed that are of calcium alginate. And these beads are separated and dried by a fuse drying process. Now these beads can also be used for a controlled release drug delivery, that is a floating type. Calcium pectinate gel beads are also alternate options, but usually a pectinate is more costlier than the alginate. Calcium alginate pectinate gel beads, a mixture may be used, and sometimes calcium alginate along with chitosan gel beads can also be used. But chitosan is having a problem of solubility. It is only soluble in glacial acetic acid, and that's why it is again irritating in nature, and that's why chitosan gel beads are difficult to formulate on a laboratory scale or on an industrial scale, considering the safety perspectives. Now, these beads again may have various options, as I have told you, that alginate beads with air compartment, where the alginate base is formed, and before drying the hollow cavity will be created inside the gel bead, right? And after drying the gel bead will shrink it. Floating powder may also be prepared by using drug and mixing it with sodium or potassium alginate along with uh, uh, polymers like HPMC and HPC, along with sometimes a binder may also be added. Oil entrapped gel beads. Now gel beads may be formulated with entrapped oil into the gel beads. Now entrapped oil will have a role to create the holes within the sphere or a bead, and that's why they will reduce the density. Right after homogenization of the pectin solution with oil, it will form the emulsion, and then it is extruded into a calcium chloride solution, and that will form a beads with the entrapped oil. Sometimes calcium silicate can also be added as a floating carrier because it has an added advantage of high porosity, large pores volume, low inherent density, and the granules containing drug, HPMC and calcium silicate can be prepared as a floating granules. One more option and a novel option is Gelucire granules. They are available from the Getafose USA based company, and they are available in both the grades hydrophilic as well as hydrophobic. Usually the Gelucires are characterized by a code where a digit oblique 01 to 14 are the available options. The first number indicates the melting temperature of a particular Jelusar material, and the digits after the oblique indicates the pH range in which they are suitable, right? Now, usually, it includes the hydrophilicity or hydrophobicity. 0, 1 will include hydrophobic, and as we are moving from 1 to 14, the hydrophilicity is increased. And that's why if we want to prepare a sustained release formulation, usually uh, 0, 1 to 0, 5 are suitable for the hydrophobicity. They have low inherent density, and usually the formulation is prepared by mixing a drug with the gel by melt granulation process, and they are suitable for sustained release of highly water soluble drugs. The third major approach is the expandable system. They are also called as plug system. Why they are called as plug system? Because the size of the formulation is greater than a pyloric sphincter, as we have discussed earlier. Usually the size is 13 millimeter, and if our dosage form is expanded into a size greater than 13 mm, it will not pass through the pyloric sphincter, and it will act as a plug and will be retained into the gastrointestinal segment. It has to expand for a gastric retention and should be collapsed after a leg time. And this expandable approach involves two types of system. One is swelling system, where the dosage form is usually of smaller size when we are formulating, but when it is exposed to GI fluid, usually it expands enormously to a large size that is greater than the size that is passing through pylorus sphincter. In unfolding system, the delivery system is compressed and filled into a capsule, and when it is exposed to GI fluid, it is again unfolded to a size that is difficult to pass through the pylorus sphincter, and hence the delivery is retained into the stomach for longer period of time. The last approach is the approach of bio or mucoadhesive systems. The basis of mucoadhesion is that a dosage form can stick to the mucosal surface by different mechanisms. Examples of materials that are commonly used for a bioadhesion are polyacrylic acids like carbopol, polycarbophils, chitosan, gantrez, that is nothing but polymethyl vinyl ether, and malic anhydride copolymers, cholestyramine, tragacanth, sodium alginate. These are the widely used materials for developing a bioadhesive or mucoadhesive systems. Here the drug is incorporated with a bioadhesive agent, and the device is capable to adhere to the stomach walls and thus resisting a gastric emptying. However, the mucus on the walls of the stomach is in a state of constant renewal, and that's why sometimes results in unpredictable adherence, and thus this approach is not widely used because of biological variation involved from patient to patient. This slide also shows you dosage form when it is adhered to the biomembrane. Now, compared to a single unit system, either tablet or capsule, it is preferred that a multi-particulate system containing microspheres, either with a floating behavior or with a mucoadhesive property, are always preferred because they reduce the dose dumping of the drug delivery. Now, what is dose dumping. Usually, when you are formulating a controlled or sustained drug delivery, there may be chances that the drug delivery may fail because of a sudden immediate release of the drug from a controlled release fashion that may be dangerous because usually 2 or 3 doses of the drug that are used in immediate release dosage form are combined in a controlled or a sustained drug delivery system. If they are suddenly released, it may lead to adverse drug reaction of the drug, and that's why, and such a phenomenon is called as dose dumping. But when the drug delivery is formulated by using multi-particulate systems like microspheres, usually it will have less chances of dose dumping because by chance failure of up to 10% of the multi-particulate carriers will not lead to adverse drug reactions. And that's why these are more preferred to prevent the dose dumping compared to single unit system like tablet or capsule. Now, various mechanisms involved in bioadhesion includes hydration, bonding mediated, and a receptor mediated adhesion. The problems usually associated with mucoadhesive systems include rapid removal of mucus, as I have told you that the mucus is continuous in a dynamic state of removal. We are not sure whether the dosage form will adhere to the mucus or the epithelial cell layer. Dosage form may adhere to esophagus resulting in drug-induced injuries sometimes, and that's why it is a difficulty in swallowing also. Now we'll see the factors affecting a performance of a gastroretentive drug delivery system. Friends, there are two types of the factors. The first one is formulation factors and the second is called idiosyncratic factors. Formulation factors involve the types of dosage form, the density of the dosage form, the size of the dosage form, the shape of the dosage form, and the viscosity grade of the polymer that is we have used into the formulation. While idiosyncratic factors includes food intake and nature of food, because usually the transit will be dependent on food intake and the nature of food we are consuming. Effect of gender, because achlorhydria may be more prevalent into the geriatric patients, and that's why the pH changes are more with the age group. Body posture plays an important role. Age and the disease conditions and body mass index are the factors that are performing the influence onto the gastroenteritis drug delivery. Friends, these are few key references for your further reading and learning. Thank you very much to all of you. If you have any questions or any doubts or any queries, you may contact me on my mail ID. Please note my mail ID ASSO underscore DM Patel @ gtu.edu.in. This is my mail ID to contact me further for any clarification on your doubts. Thank you all.